All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating symbolic map. It has this really mysterious name, System 19. And what it does, or what it claims to do, is find this hidden link between the physical world and the spiritual world, connecting ideas that are thousands of years old. So let's jump right in and see what this is all about. So here's the big question, right? What in the world could possibly connect the four ancient elements, fire, air, earth, and water, with some of the most sacred texts on the planet? I mean, on the surface, it sounds like a bit of a stretch, but this system says, nope, there's a link. Let's find out how. And here's the answer. System 19 is basically a symbolic framework. You can think of it as a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. It lays out this direct one-to-one connection between each of those four classical elements and four of the most influential Abrahamic scriptures.
To really get our heads around this, we've got to break it down piece by piece. So let's start with the first couple of pairings, fire and air. In this system, they're seen as the pillars of law and spirit.
Okay, first up. The system makes this really powerful, almost immediate connection. It links the element of fire directly with the Torah. So what is the Torah in this context? Well, it's understood as the foundational law, the divine guidance given to the prophet Moses. It's often described as guidance and a light, and it's got the core covenants and commandments that are absolutely central to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Why fire? Symbolically, fire is all about purification, transformation, and those big divine encounters. I mean, just think of the burning bush story. It also represents law and judgment, like a refining power. So it becomes a really compelling symbolic match for the divine law you find in the Torah. Okay, following that same logic, the system then pairs the element of air with the Psalms. And the Psalms, which are also known as the Zabur, are the scriptures tied to King David. Now, unlike the Torah's focus on law, the Psalms are completely different. They're a collection of beautiful, poetic hymns, expressions of praise, deep sorrow, and incredible spiritual feeling. You can almost think of them as the soul speaking directly to the divine. And that's where the air connection just clicks into place. Air is the element of breath, of spirit, of inspiration. And in the exact same way that air carries sound, the Psalms are seen here as carrying the spiritual voice, all the praises and prayers of the human soul. All right, so we've covered the more celestial, kind of ethereal elements of fire and air. Now we're going to ground ourselves with the second half of the system, earth and water, which it calls the foundations of form and flow. So our third pairing brings us, well, quite literally, down to earth. It links the element of earth with the gospel. The gospel, or the Injil, is the revelation associated with Jesus. In this framework, its main focus isn't just on law or praise, but on a lived moral example. It's a tangible story, full of teachings on compassion, ethics, and building a real community. And that's the crucial connection to earth. Earth symbolizes manifestation, the body, physical reality itself. The teachings in the gospel are embodied. They're shown in concrete actions and parables. That makes it a grounded revelation, one that takes solid form right here in the material world. And that brings us to the final pairing in our elemental quartet. This time, the life-giving element of water is mapped directly to the Quran. So the Quran is understood in Islam as the final revelation. It's seen as something that both confirms the core essence of the scriptures that came before it, but also completes the divine message. It acts as this all-encompassing guide for both spiritual and day-to-day practical life. This is where the symbolism of water is just perfect. Water is all about purification, cleansing, renewal. I mean, it's life itself. Its qualities of fluidity and depth are a perfect mirror for the role of the Quran as this final, all-encompassing message that purifies the soul and sustains the entire community. Okay, so we have our four elements and our four scriptures. 4 for 4. But wait a second. The system is called System 19, not System 4. So something's missing, and this is where the puzzle gets really cool. Because the missing piece, well, it has to do with us. It's the human vessel, the container for all this revelation. So then we see this, just the number 15. It seems totally random. What on earth could 15 possibly have to do with ancient elements in sacred books? It feels like it came out of nowhere, right? Well, here's the key that unlocks the whole thing. In this specific symbolic map, the number 15 represents the human being. The idea is that we are the living vessels. We are the containers that hold and interact with these four elemental forms of revelation. Without that human dimension, the whole system is just incomplete. And now, finally, we can put it all together. This is the complete map of meaning. You take the human vessel, which is represented by 15, and you add the four elemental revelations, and you get 19, and that's why it's called System 19.
So that total, 19, it's not just some arbitrary number. It represents the aggregate, the full cycle of human spiritual development. It symbolizes the journey of a person engaging with law, with spirit, with practice, and with renewal, all in relation to existence itself.
And here we can see the entire system in one really elegant summary. You have fire, the Torah, Moses, that's all about law. Air, the Psalms, David, that's spirit. Earth, the gospel, Jesus, the moral example. And finally, water, the Quran, Muhammad, purification and completion. It's a surprisingly cohesive map of meaning when you see it all laid out.
So what's the big takeaway here? Look, System 19 is just one map, one attempt to connect the dots. But it leaves us with a much bigger question to think about. Whether we see something like this as profound truth or just beautiful poetry, how do these symbolic systems, these maps of meaning, help us in our timeless search for meaning in a really complex world?